Yeah, it's great to hear too, guys, that made that transition successfully, and now you can share your story, how to help others do the same. So I know Whitney, you just touched on this a little bit, but Eric, I'd like to ask, what sort of skills and maybe habits did the military prepare you or cultivate within you that have helped you today in multifamily?
Yeah, I think eyes wide open now. Just having an unstoppable mindset and really realizing that having a persistent growth mindset, you can do anything. Anyone, if I can do this, I'm just an Iowa kid. I mean, Whitney, you might say the same thing. I'm just a kid from Kentucky. Like it's a path well traveled. You just have to have persistence, surround yourself by the right people, and be disciplined. I think the military gave me the discipline I needed. I mean, following a standard operating procedure is cake, right? I mean, they're there for a reason. And you think of your coaches and mentors and friends and peers in the business as that operating procedure, right? It's who has done what, and just emulating them. So persistence through the hard stuff. There's nothing hard about this compared to what Whitney and I have already been through. It's a path well traveled, and having a mindset surrounded around that idea is something that I got from the military directly.
Awesome. Yeah. How about you, Whitney?
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what Eric said. Definitely just I grew up in a one stoplight town in Kentucky. I mean, there's nothing there. I mean, you can go to Walmart, in 3 different directions about 45 minutes away, but there's nothing there. And one of the best things that happened was ultimately getting me out of there. And the military helped with that. It helped open my eyes to bigger things and to see the world a little bit. But day in and day out, especially when I was overseas, it's those hard times that really help sculpt you, right? And that was it. I can think back now to so many times where, if there's something hard going on now, I'm like, okay, it's not as bad as that. I can get through this. This is okay. This isn't that big of a deal, to keep pushing forward. And so the military did. I mean, it was just a day in, a day out thing, right? And it doesn't matter how much sleep you got. It doesn't matter how cold it is or how hot it is or whatever. It's just not an option to quit. And so, I love how Eric talked about just self-discipline, and that's something the military helped me with. And I think over the last, especially 3 or 4 years, I've put a lot more time into self-discipline, put a lot more time into, just structuring, so much of my day. And even thinking about that, when I started doing more of that's when our business started to take off as well. Different things start to happen. I even have this wasn't planned, by the way, but I have a book here that I would highly recommend, The Power of Self-Discipline by Brian Tracy. I love that. I mean, it's just like no excuses, right? I mean, let's just go make it happen. And so that's a lot of what the military, I think, gave to me. And then obviously law enforcement just hammered that on home. And, we've just pushed forward from there.
Yeah, awesome. Right before we started the webinar, I was kind of chatting that not too long ago, it was probably a month ago now or so, but I was on a run and I was listening to, it was Whitney's podcast at LifeBridge Capital, and he was interviewing Eric, and I was running. I was like, man, I'm not feeling it. I'm ready to just go ahead and just start heading home. And anyways, I was just listening to you guys, and I was like, well, I can't, I'm supposed to run 5 miles, and I'm going to just go run 5 miles and then just kind of stick to my plan. And so anyways, but, I enjoyed listening to you guys, and got me fired up. And so I made sure I hit my 5 miles. So
cool.
Anyways, so Eric, in terms of, what sort of multifamily experience do you have to date on the LPGP side? And then, I've gotten to know you some, and see your shirt there, Veterans Community Project. I know you're big into giving back. What role does that mindset play in multifamily?
Yeah, I tell everybody I can, including my 2 sons, if you lead with a giving heart, it's going to come back to you tenfold, if not more. So having something, we could talk about your why. I'd love to actually share my why with people, because that's the motivator for me to get into multifamily and to persist through the hard times, the things that are difficult in the space we're in. But so I started really multifamily investing 2 years ago or so, give or take. I bought coaching, and I was very disciplined, worked on personal branding and making sure people know who I was and what I needed and what I could offer, and the kind of the standard branding and networking things that are important, that we all obviously exercise on a daily basis. But so that put me in a position where I was able to work with a couple teams to do my first couple deals, and then we started doing our own deals as well. So 2019 was my first full year in multifamily real estate investing. We closed 571 doors. And I'm also a limited partner in 575 doors. I love passive investing. To me, it's an amazing thing to invest in someone's deal and know you're going to have, a couple $1,000 every quarter coming your way, and the tax incentives and things. And it's great to see one actually have a portfolio that's about to go full cycle on the limited partner side. And I'm excited about that. So there's that, what do I do with all this cash thing coming, coming my way. So it's just exciting, and I'm glad to be where I am now. And I'm looking forward to, the next 500 or 5,000 doors. And it's not about the doors. People often ask, doors doesn't mean cash. It doesn't mean how much money, but there's no tactful way to ask somebody, or for me on a stage to say, this is how much money I make. It's not about that. It is a way to show, it's a metric of experience. So for those of you who are saying, okay, well, what does that mean? How many doors you have? Who cares about that? It is a metric of experience. Someone who has a couple hundred doors has experienced some syndication process. They've closed some deals. And so that is a metric of experience. I like to make that pretty clear too. But, yeah, I'm really looking forward to what the next couple years. If you're just getting started in this business, I feel like now is a great time to get coaching and to get plugged in with the multifamily crowd, because what's coming up in the next 2 to 3 years could be very exciting for us all. So
Whitney, what has your experience been today on the LPGP side? And then, I know giving back is also a big part of your life and your family's life. And so wanted to, if you could kind of hit on what that role and, how that mindset plays into multifamily as well.
For sure. And I would, even go back to saying, like our why has been so important. That also is when we got really clear about that, it's just helped us to have so much more focus. And I even like to say too, my one of our best teammates are people on our team, and I call them almost like a hidden team member that most people don't know about, is my wife. And she's not into real estate, but however, she's very passionate about our why. And so I just like to draw that out. Like, even if your spouse isn't into real estate, your why can be very passionate to them. And I couldn't have done any of this without her complete support, because it's been quite insane over the last few years. So, but most people have no idea that there's 160 million orphans in the world, and it can cost $40,000 to $60,000 to bring a child home through adoption. It's just insane to me that, there's that kind of hurdle that families have to cross when there's that kind of need. But there is, and we do have to make sure we do that legally. And obviously there's a lot of cost to that. But that financial burden keeps most families from adopting. It was a massive hurdle for my wife and I to adopt. And our first son, Samuel, came home from Ethiopia. About a year later, our second son, Elijah, was born. And then just about a year ago, our daughter Eden Joy was born as well, and came to our family through adoption. And so we've seen the ups and downs, international, domestic, even had a failed placement where we lost many thousands of dollars. And so that hurdle, though, the financial burden, keeps so many families out. That's we want to help those families and be able to commit to adopting that child. And so that's the big why and the mission behind LifeBridge Capital, and what we're standing behind. But syndication is the way we're doing that, and our investors get to play a role in that while it doesn't affect their returns. So we love that they get to get back, and it doesn't hinder their return in any way. But you ask about my experience. we did small multis for a number of years, up to like a 15 unit. And then when I finally got into syndication up to this point, I had mentioned it. We have about 600 doors, around 600 under management, just under $100 million of assets under management. But ultimately it was gaining or partnering my skill set with my business partner skill set. That's when we then started to just see massive growth, just really staying in our lane and figuring out, just what we're good at and sticking to that. But also just having somebody else that working as hard as I am on what they're good at. And then obviously growing our team. And back to what we were talking about a minute ago, just the self-discipline, I wanted to read you something just very short. Out of that book, because I feel like that ties back to the military to me in a big way. And Brian Tracy says, perhaps the most important insight of all with regard to success is that to achieve greatly, you must become a different person. It is not the material things you accomplish or acquire that matter so much as it is the quality of the person you must become to accomplish well above the average. To develop the development of self-discipline is the high road that makes everything possible for you. And I feel like the military was kind of that first big step for me in, doing something different than everybody else and almost becoming somebody else and helping shape me, into a man really, and having different thoughts and different mindset. The military helped me with that. He says self-discipline is the ability to do what you should do when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. And that's the military right there, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you feel. Like, we've got to get this done. Let's go do it, right? We're not going to talk about how you feel. So anyway, just wanted to share that as well, just about self-discipline.
Yeah, no, that's a great message. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right? So if you want to change your outcome, your experience, you've got to first change what's going on inside your mind, right? And it takes discipline to do that. So it's a real testament to you guys, because that's definitely not an easy thing to do, and most people, frankly, can't or aren't willing to. So yeah, that's awesome to hear that you guys are both on the same page there.